All right, everybody, we are going to be reviewing drawing our diorama and making a plan for it. So the first step is going to be to draw our shape or our base out. You can see here I'm drawing out a shoebox, which is what I'm going to build my diorama in. I'm not taking a whole lot of time to make this drawing perfect. It is just meant to be a quicker sketch. Once I have my box drawn, I'm going to start adding in the details. So I start by sketching in my background, which in this case is going to be mountains and a lake that's going to go along the bottom and back wall of it. You can see that I've labeled it BG for background. That's going to let me know where in our diorama it's going to be placed. You can see I'm adding some detail to the bottom or the floor of my diorama. There's going to be a lake and a river as well. This is all going to be part of what I'm calling the background. And I will start doing my next levels. So here you can see I'm adding in some of the more details. So these are going to be the things that are attached. This is going to be trees, which again, this is just a rough sketch. I'm not taking a whole lot of time on it. But I do want to be sure that I'm adding enough detail so that I know what I'm making and where it's being placed. This one I'm labeling as level 1. I'm starting it from the back. The first step up is going to be level 1, and then it'll be level 2, level 3, etc. You may have more or less layers depending on how detailed your scene is going to be. I'm going to add in some hanging elements, so these are going to be some clouds. I might add in some birds. I haven't decided yet, but I'll figure it out. And that way I know placement wise where everything is going as far as in-depth goes. Alright, so I'm going to speed up the drawing, but I want to talk to you still about how we're laying this out. So as we're going, I want to be thinking about scale and perspective and what size things are, where they're overlapping, how much space they're physically taking up within my shoebox and within my diorama. As I'm sketching these elements out, again, I'm not being super precise. I'm not being very detailed with it. I'm just making sure that I know what level and layer things are, where they're going to overlap, where their overall placement is going to be, and I have a rough idea of what I'm building them with. So as I'm adding things into my drawing, I want to be thinking, how am I making this? What am I making it out of? How am I attaching it to the box itself? So once we have our sketch finished of what we want our final product to look like, and we have our labels of what layer is what, we want to start actually sketching out and planning each individual layer. So this is where things are going to get a little more detailed, but not super crazy detailed. And I also want to start making notes of how I'm going to be adding these things in, what they're going to be made out of, things like that. So right here, I'm starting my sketch with my background. And my background, remember, includes the bottom or base of my box, as well as the sides. So I'm going to be creating these images using some construction paper and textured papers that I have to create the mountains and the sky on the side and backgrounds. For the lake and the river, I'm going to use, I think I'm going to try to use some tin foil and see if I can color that. If not, I'll use some paper to create that with either colored pencils or use some sort of glue or something to try to give it that texture and shiny appearance. So you can see that I'm starting to label what color it's going to be and what things are going to be made out of. Each individual layer is going to get its own drawing and its own plan. So this again is to let me know what and how I'm building each and every item. So once I have my background drawing complete, I'm going to reference back to my main drawing and see what do I need to add for layer 1. So in this case, it's going to be a couple of trees that are going to be surrounding the lake. So I'm going to start a new drawing at this point that's going to help me figure that out. And again, I want to keep in mind, where is it being placed? How is it being attached? And what am I making it out of? So in my case, I'm going to start to draw my trees. Again, these don't have to be super detailed drawings. These are just for my reference, for me to know what I'm making and where it's going to go. So as I start to add in more details and adding more elements of what I'm adding into my diorama, I want to keep my notes going of what I'm making things out of and how I'm attaching them in. So for these trees, I'm going to use clay or modeling dough to create them and make them, and they're going to be attached to the base using glue. Right? So as I continue my drawing, I want to make sure that each and every level I am labeling it so that I know where my items are getting placed. So this one was level 1, so these are going to be the smallest trees that I make. I'm labeling mine from the background to the foreground. Level 1 is going to be the closest to the back. Level 2 is going to be a little bit closer to the front. So as I'm drawing these trees, they're going to be bigger than the ones that I just made. I'm still going to use modeling dough to create them and glue to attach them. I'll just be sure to make notes, or when I'm actually drawing them, use a little bit more scale to show that I'm going to be making them bigger than the ones that are going behind them. So as I continue drawing on each and every element that I'm adding into my diorama, or every item that I'm building for it, I want to make sure that I'm labeling not only what level it belongs to, but how it's attaching to the diorama itself and within the design itself. If there's any objects that I'm making it with, I'll be doing that. If this is a good time too, that if we're using different color schemes, things like that, if you would like to add color pencils to your drawing or marker or whatever, go ahead and do so. If you don't have that available, that's fine. Just make a note if color is going to be playing a part into it. I want to always be thinking about scale and perspective when I'm building things, to make sure that the stuff that's farther away looks smaller than the bigger ones. I also am going to make notes of any of my hanging objects. So in my case, I'm using clouds and potentially birds. So I want to make sure that I have an idea and a plan for how I'm going to be making those and how I'm going to be suspending them. I'm going to be using paper for those and hanging them or suspending them from paper clips that I'll bend. This again, it depends on what your design is, if you're going to need a hanging element or not, and figuring out how that's going to work for you. It's really important that we have a sketch and a plan for each level and each area and each item that we want to add into our diorama itself, and that way when we actually start making these individual elements and pieces, we know how we're making it, how it's attaching, and where it's going in our overall diorama. So that's it. We want to make sure that we have an individual drawing and plan for each level and object of our diorama, as well as an overall sketch of it.